In sporting competitions of skill and ingenuity, only once or twice in a decade does an individual come along who completely dominates the competition. Nowhere has this been more apparent than in the sport of high-power rifle shooting.
Okay, we'll get our stuff together. Should have been X about 4 o'clock.
Here, shooters are challenged by the wind, the sun, and other natural elements at 200, 300, 600, and 1,000 yards as they attempt to place a bullet the diameter of a pencil into a bullseye that varies from 5 inches to 10 inches in diameter. High-power rifle shooting is a test of physical skill, acquired knowledge, and mental concentration. Over the past 10 years, one competitor has won more national championships, won more awards, and set more national records than any high-power rifle shooter to ever live. His name is G. David Tubb, and his credentials are quite impressive. 7-time national high-power rifle champion, 8-time national silhouette champion, 5-time national light hunting rifle silhouette champion. Overall, G. David Tubb has earned 29 open individual national championships and hundreds of regional, local, and individual titles. He is without a doubt the most accomplished and skilled high-power rifle shooter to ever compete in organized competition. In law enforcement, tactical snipers and counter snipers rarely shoot at distances more than 200 yards. In fact, most shootings take place at distances of less than 75 yards. And while this in itself is not considered a difficult shot for a competent rifle shooter, law enforcement shooters are often encumbered by the lack of a clear shot at the target, a target that is moving, a less than ideal shooting position, and the presence of bystanders and or hostages. For these reasons, law enforcement rifle marksmen must develop the ability and skills to shoot high-precision shots quickly and from a variety of shooting positions. To clarify high precision, it is safe to say that law enforcement rifle shooters must develop the ability to shoot quarter-sized targets out to 100 yards consistently and under a variety of circumstances. Even more importantly, the law enforcement rifle shooter must know and understand his rifle and ammunition so that he can adjust his scope and his hold on the target when the target moves from 25 to 50 yards or 75 to 60 yards or 50 to 100 yards or any variation you could imagine. This program you're about to see details that and a whole lot more. Now, here's G. David Tubb and me, Lenny McGill, with extreme accuracy, tactical sniper shooting techniques for law enforcement.
The distances we're going to cover are 50, 100, 150, and 200 yards, which are probably the most common distances that the law enforcement officer has to deal with on a city-type situation. We're going to look at the advantages of a semi-automatic tactical rifle and a single-shot or bolt-action tactical rifle. We're going to address the zeros, which we will encounter the differences in zeros between 50 yards and 200 yards. We will look at a new vest that actually will probably give you a lot of support in the shooting situation where you don't have the support applicable or usable by a bipod or over the edge of a building or possibly even over a car hood. So bear with me and I'll put this on. It just takes a moment and we'll discuss some of the features of this vest.
And what is this?
This is a Black Hawk tactical vest. Essentially we've got an upper, we've got a lower, and we have a sling in the back that actually is supported from the center of your back. So what a law enforcement officer can have when you have this on is you can actually have a sling supported position without the sling going over your arm.
Well, that's cool.
get into it, take that loose. This is the easiest way I've found. You just step into it. It's kind of like a rappelling harness. Pull it up and it's on. Zip the zipper. Latch the belt. Doesn't necessarily have to be too tight either. This thing supports itself pretty easily. Pick our sling up in the back, pull it over our shoulder. Goes in a loop right here. Now we're ready. We don't have to use it. We can use it at a moment's notice. So that way, if we want to use our bipod or we want to shoot off a backpack, we can do that. Or if we get in a situation where we don't have that, say a side of the building shot, where you're standing or kneeling against the side of a building, you can actually use this and it will support you. And actually probably cut your hold at least in half, if not more.
Well, now this is a standard. This item right here is kind of a standard competition style swivel, or what is it?
That is, you could probably use any sort of swivel that you desired. This is, of course, Velcro strapping, so it's pretty much adjustable to fit you, and it just laps back. They have a couple of different buckles that are essentially adaptable to anybody's rifle.
Well, how do you make that work with a rifle?
With this particular rifle, you make it work right here, just like this. Hooks in, sticks out. It's that quick.
Wow, that is quick.
You're ready, and you can go. And it may look a little complicated, but in reality, all you're doing is taking the basics of position rifle shooting and moving them into the area of police tactical work. The other beauty of it is the fact that since it pulls from directly in the back, if you'll see, you really can cinch down on it, and it's really got a wide support base back through the rappelling straps back here. So it's quite steady, and I think you'll find we'll show you exactly what it does. Now the distances again that we're going to shoot were 50, 100, 150 yards. So we'll get down and we'll zero our gun at 50, 150, 100, 150, and 200, and we'll discuss the differences between the barrel and the scope height. Because as you shoot 200 yards, your bullet is going to be coming up from underneath your scope since you've set your zero on 200. And so if you took a shot at 200 yards using, if you took a shot at 50 yards using your 200 yard zero, you'd hit at least 2.5 inches low. Because at this point in time, it's so close that it hasn't reached its peak based on the ballistic path of the bullet to cross into the scope crosshairs. We're going to zero both our guns at 50, 100, 150, and 200 yards, and we already have 200 yard zeros. We know that we're going to have to come down from 200 yards to get our zeros. We'll probably have to come down approximately 3 inches, which at 50 yards is going to be 5 or 6 minutes probably on both of these rifles, even though the scope's higher over the center line of the bore on this Knight than it is on this Jilks action. So as we do that, I'll take a zero. The other thing that's very important when you're zeroing back is you need to have a parallax adjustment on your scope. If your scope does not have an adjustable front parallax or a parallax adjustment on the side, then what you've really done when you sighted your gun in for 50 is you have a scope that is not parallax free. And what that means is that it's not in focus, And when it's not in focus, if you place your head on the stock in a different position, the crosshair will move around, say, in a half-inch circle. And in doing so, you'll shoot at least probably the tightest group you can shoot. It's a half-inch group. Just from the simple fact that the crosshair will have a tendency to follow wherever your eye is because your scope's not focused. Now, if you went back out to 200 yards, your scope's parallax free. Essentially, it's at infinity, or it's very close to infinity at 200 yards, from 200 yards past. So the other thing you may want to know is the fact that if you have a target you're going to shoot at 50 yards, and you're trying to see him clearly, obviously it's a big advantage to have a scope that you can focus back so you can read his facial expressions a little easier, or his demeanor, or because if you're in that sort of situation, you really need to know that. You can kind of read the individual by what they're doing, and it's clear.
So the scope you recommend would be one that has an adjustment?
Has a parallax adjustment. I would say a law enforcement scope also should be a variable power scope such as this one. This is a 6.5 to 20, probably a 6.5 to 20 or a 4 to 14 adjustable or a variable scope would be the ideal, because at 50 yards, a 4.5 or 6 power scope is more than adequate.
And you don't want to have too much because then you're too close to the target.
That's right. You can't see the peripheral stuff that's going on.
Right.
So, and a good quality scope. These are 30 millimeter. Actually, this is the Leupold, the new Leupold long-range law enforcement scope, and it's so designed that instead of having the parallax adjustment out here, it's on the side. So if you're down shooting with a bipod, you take your left hand, instead of reaching out here as before, you just reach here and twist the knob until it's focused. So it's a little more user-friendly. This scope's the same way. This is a fixed power scope, but it's the same thing. This is a Mark IV Leupold, and it has adjustments on the side of it for focusing or parallax adjustment.
All right, well, how would you go ahead and start to get yourself dialed in here at this short distance, the 50-yard?
Well, I prefer being a position shooter and not knowing what I'm going to encounter. I'm going to shoot off a bag. I prefer to shoot off a bag because it allows me different angles. It allows me to come on a target quicker or change to a new target quicker. Whereas if I'm trying to drag my bipod around and the ground's unlevel or uneven, and it always seems that the rifle's always crooked. When you put it down, it may be crooked like this or like this. And not that that makes a lot of difference at 50 or 100 yards, but that's just something that I don't want to induce another variable into my shooting. So we'll fold the bipod up on this at this point. We'll hook our sling up, come around, and we're going to shoot off a bag.
Now, how much tension do you give to that sling at the front there?
Quite a bit.
So you really pull up, huh?
I really pull up. I'm going to have to adjust it just a little bit.
And are you looking for opposing forces? Is that what you're looking to do?
I'm looking for the same sort of feel that you would have if you had the sling on your arm, except now it's pulling from essentially the small or middle of my back.
Right.
And we'll shoot some in a minute without a bag, and you'll be surprised at exactly what all it really does. Of course, instead of using a bipod and adjusting the parallax adjustment, now I just reach up like I am making an adjustment on my elevation or windage and do it in such a manner. Go a little bit tighter here.
So where are you starting out with this rifle right now? Where is it sighted in? Or
this rifle is sighted in at 200 yards. And so we're actually going to go down about 6 minutes, and we'll shoot one at 50 and see how close we are. And remember, these clicks on the rifle are in quarter-minute increments. So a quarter minute or 4 clicks is a whole minute, and a minute at 100 yards will move you an inch. A minute at 50 yards will move you a half an inch. So they're pretty fine and minute clicks at this point in time.
So each click then is 1/8 of a minute.
1/8 of an inch. That's correct.
Of an inch, excuse me, yes.
Yep. Okay.
And what you do there?
I came up about 2 minutes. I need to come up a little more.
So what you do there? Come up a bit
Came
more?
down 2 clicks and I went right 2 clicks. I'm shooting at the spotter, or the little black paster in the center.
Yes.
So now I'm trying to get a real true 50-yard zero, where it essentially will be, anytime I shoot it, the edge of the bullet hole will hit somewhere on the edge of the crosshair, or the center of the crosshair. Shot the bottom right corner of the little paster, and that's pretty much where I hit. I shoot the top right corner now. Okay, that's pretty much close. I came down a click, and that's my 50-yard zero.
Okay, so that got you to 50 yards. That's a dead-on hold at 50
A
yards.
dead-on hold at 50 yards.
Okay, and will you write that down now?
I'm gonna write that down. I would actually probably, if I was carrying it in the field or something, I would either stencil it on here, put a 2, or have a 0 on the side of my gun, like I do a high-power rifle when I shoot different positions and different yardages.
So you'd have a piece of tape
So,
with all
so
your...
I'd have a reference.
Now,
Absolutely.
is there a finite position on that scope? What would be your 0 at 50 yards on the scope right now as we sit here?
As it is now, my 0 on the scope is 4 1/4 minutes of elevation.
Now-
And I have my parallax set so that it's clear
Okay.
at 50. Okay. Of course, that's not a big deal to change. It's relatively quick.
Okay. So where do I see your elevation and then your left to right?
The windage is right here.
Okay. And what do they read?
This one reads 4 1/4, and this one reads 1/4 minute. Actually, this one reads a half a minute right at this point.
That's half minute off the 0.
Half a minute off is 0, and my mechanical 0, as best as I think, is 0 at 200 yards.
Okay.
Okay. Now I'm going to adjust this one more time to get it. Normally, when I'm adjusting it, I get it, and I leave it alone. I don't have to adjust it anymore. So, I'm trying to get it where it's reasonably snug and tight, and actually does give me quite a bit of support.
Now show me how that scope works when you actually, or the rifle works when you actually do put it in your hand. How do you actually use that hand? And do you push up with it, or what's
Well,
the technique there?
Essentially, the sling supports it. So I put my hand in, just like a regular rifle. If I was actually going to shoot kneeling from this position, I could put it in like this, and I'm extremely steady.
Yeah.
Because it's pulling from my back, it's pulling just like a sling. Now, it goes, when I shoot prone, this goes over the top of my shoulder. But when I shoot sitting or kneeling, it goes around the edge.
Oh, okay.
Okay? And I'm pretty much able, myself, to use the same setting, which I've just pretty much adjusted now, I'm close, at any position. Okay? So, all right. So we'll go and we'll shoot, get a 0 at 100 yards.
Okay. So you write down the 0 at 50.
Wrote the 0 down at 50.
And now for the next distance,
For 100, I'm going to use the same 0 and see where I hit. I will probably refocus my parallax adjustment on the side.
Okay.
Okay. That shot went about 3 inches high.
Now is that normal?
That's probably pretty normal.
So you're holding dead on.
I held dead on, so I need to come down for my 100-yard 0, which I'll do right now. I came down 3 minutes.
So again, essentially what's happening then? The rifle's shooting...
I'm just catching the bullet as it's coming up. I had to actually elevate the impact of the round with the scope at 50 yards because it's below, it's 2.5, 3 inches below the scope at its initial takeoff or its initial exits the barrel.
Right.
And it has crossed the path at 50 yards based on our zero. It's crossed, and now it's not climbing. The bullet's always falling, but the way that we have it leaving, it appears to be climbing.
Right.
And so yards. Now it's climbed, in the next 50 yards, it's climbed about 3 inches.
Okay.
Okay. So what I will do now is establish my 100-yard zero, and then we'll do a 150 and a 200. And more than likely, our 100, our 150, and our 200 will not be really, there won't be as much a wide variation in spread as there was between the 50 and the 100-yard zero.
Right. Well, that's critical for law enforcement officers because most of the shots are between 50 and 100.
Absolutely. You really need to know
And right there
that.
you have what kind of distance there? Is that 2.5, 3 inches, you think?
I think it's 3 inches. So that's quite a bit. I mean, it's that much.
So you're high 3 inches.
I'm high 3 inches.
From 50 to 100 yards.
From 50 to 100 yards with a 50-yard zero.
Right. So you've already clicked yourself down, right?
I came down 3 minutes, and we'll see where we are. That should have moved me 3 inches. All right, here we go. You can see the support this thing gives me. It's really like shooting prone, but it really gives you a lot of ability to move right or left. I need to come up. I came up a minute of the 3 that I went down. One click right. Okay, we have a 100-yard zero, which is 2.5. So it's actually almost 2 minutes below the 50-yard zero.
So you're saying that the with the readout on the top of the scope there, is it 2.5?
Is it 2.5 minutes of elevation?
Can you show me where it says 2.5, or you just...
Sure. It says 2.5. It says 2 and 2 more marks or clicks. So the difference between my 50 and 100-yard zero was 1 3/4 minutes down. So translated into the distance that is at 100 yards is 1 3/4 inches.
And the gun shooting higher.
The gun shooting higher at 100 yards.
Right.
Yes. So now we'll go to 150.
Now, David, just so everybody kind of understands scopes in general and the whole deal, all scopes you get have these minute or increments, right?
That's correct. Most all premium scopes are in increments of 1 minute of angle. And a minute of angle is a lot like a paper cup out of a water dispenser or a snow cone cup. A minute of angle gets bigger the further away you get. So a minute of angle at 100 yards is 1 inch. At 200 yards is 2 inches. And so on and so forth. Out to, say, 600 yards, a minute of angle would be 6 inches.
Mm-hmm.
So if somebody's speaking in the minute of angle terms, that's what they're talking about at the specific range that they're talking. And or if they say that they have a minute of angle rifle, well, that's great, but is it a minute of angle rifle? There's a big difference between a minute of angle rifle at 100 yards, which would be a 1 inch gun, and a minute of angle gun at 600 yards, which would be a 6 inch gun. Because it doesn't exactly work that way. If you have a 1 inch gun at 100 yards, it won't be a 6 inch gun at 600 yards. You probably would have to have a half-minute angle gun at 100 yards to have a 6 inch or 1 minute angle gun at 600 yards. because there's other conditions involved. There's many more variables that are induced, and the variables such as wind, temperature, and light are much less affected closer ranges, but they affect your bullet much less than they do at a further range.
Right, right.
So
the minute of angle, when you start speaking a minute of angle, it is dependent upon the distance you're shooting.
that's right.
And the scopes, all the scopes have the same basic adjustabilities.
All the good ones do. They're
Right.
all usually quarter minutes. I mean, you may find some that are eighth of a minute angle scopes, but a quarter minute angle scope is plenty close.
Right.
I mean, that's a quarter inch at 100 yards or 2.5 inches at 600 yards.
Right. And so the idea is you see where you're printing on paper and then move towards that depending upon the length or distance you're away from your shots.
That's correct. I told you wrong. It's not. It's 1.5 inches at 600 yards. It's not 2.5 inches. 1,000-yard quarter minute angle gun or quarter minute angle movements would be 2.5 inches.
Okay.
To equal at 10 inches, a minute at 1,000 yards would minute of angle at 1,000 yards would be 10 inches, and if you had 4 increments in between, each one would be 2.5 inches.
Okay, so we're about to shoot now at 150.
Right?
The idea here, of course, is it's farther away. Do I have to shoot higher or add clicks to the gun?
I'll probably have to come up a quarter minute, maybe a half,
Okay.
just to allow for the drop of gravity affecting the bullet.
Okay, so you're
Okay.
shooting now 150.
150 yards.
Are you going to shoot before you make any adjustments?
I'm going to shoot before I make any adjustments. Adjust my parallax just a little bit so that I clear my target up. Okay, I hit about an inch low. I'm going to come up 2 clicks, go about halfway, and shoot another one. See, normally 4 clicks would have been the correct sight setting. That's in the black paste or spotter itself that we're shooting. Right on. Shoots very well.
So you got them all that quick, huh?
I got them all that quick. Now I want to shoot it. I need to go shoot at 3. I want to reconfirm my 0 at 200. Okay. So I actually had to come up a half minute between 100 and 150, which is only, well, 100 at 150 yards. It would be a, it'd be 3/4 of an inch.
Right.
So I think I can spot my own bullet holes at 200. So I'm going to shoot a couple of shots at 200. See what we got, Lenny. Okay.
Okay.
We'll get that out of the way. That part of it.
You can tell me it's going to 200. What'd you find out?
I have to come up a click between 200 and 150. So I'm at 3 1/4, and I need to go a half minute right. That's probably because of the wind we've got blowing out there. Okay, we're sighted in with that rifle. Now we'll go back the other way with the single shot rifle.
Okay, so there's the procedure to get yourself sighted, and then you just, again, by writing these down, you just dial it in once you're at that position.
Sure. When we come back through, when we shoot plates or whatever we're doing, we could go to 150 or 200 or whatever and back and forth very quickly, just by the sight settings on the scope. One thing to keep in mind is when you're moving your scope around, always come from one direction. So if I have to come down on my scope, I would go past where I needed to go a couple of 3 clicks, say 2 or 3, and then come back up to it. And that way I'm always working in the same side of the thread. I'm always pulling it up, or vice versa. If you always like to go down, go the other way. But that way I'm going past my correction and coming back to it, as long as I'm always going the same way. And that way, as long as I'm going up, I'm fine. I just keep going up. But if I ever go down, I go down more and I come back up to the click or 2 or 3 or 4, wherever it may be, below where I intended to be at the end.
So by coming back up again, you're working on that side of the thread.
That side of the thread.
And it's going to rest there and probably be a little bit more consistent.
It will be more consistent, no question about it. And that way, if you ever had any slack or slop or built-in non-movement in your scope, you've already went by it and you're always working the same way, and so your corrections are always the same.
That's really smart.
That applies not only to the scope, but to most iron sights or peep sights like you shoot targets with. Same thing. Not that these aren't great scopes, but that's just eliminates one more variable.
There's going to be a little extra play there.
That's right.
All right.
All right, so we'll shoot this rifle at 200 yards.
Now, same basic setup here with this sling mount and everything, right?
Same basic sling thing, same mount. So we're going to do it the same way. Up. So again, you see how this rifle fits. I mean, it's very comfortable in this position. I'm not going to say that you could sit here or stand here or lay here for 2 or 3 hours, but 30 minutes or an hour would actually be no problem at all. And it gives you such ability to smooth and see other things. Okay. I don't know that I see my bullet hole, so we're going to shoot another one. 200 yards, sometimes it's very difficult to spot your own hits. All right. One more. I'm going to look through my other spotting scope, make sure.
How's it look?
Okay, we're all set.
So now 200 yards, you're right on?
I'm on. I came up a click. So, my 200 yard zero with this gun is 43 1/4. These are in 1/4 minute increments. There is 15 minutes in a revolution of this scope.
Okay.
So from 0, which is here, I have 2 marks, which is 30.
Right.
And I almost have the 3rd mark showing. It's kind of half in, half out. So right there would be 45. One less would be 44. One less would be 43. So I'm 43 1/4. That is my elevation 0.
Okay. And your windage?
And my windage 0 right now is 2 minutes, right, on this gun. Now, what I would do when and we should probably go ahead and do it, is I would go ahead and 0 the gun so that my wind 0 is always correct. Okay, so I think we probably should do that on both these rifles. We'll get the Allen wrench set.
Okay.
And 0 them. And of course, you want to 0 them on a day that you have good conditions. Thanks, Zeus.
So now what are you going to do here? Move the whole scope?
I'm going to move the windage knob on this rifle.
And you'll move it to, you're going to leave it where it's at, but move the knob to 0.
I'm going to move the knob to 0. That's exactly right.
Okay. So that's a set screw there, I guess.
Yep. There we go. It was that easy.
Let me just see here.
So now I have 0 wind. So if the point in time I'd make the shot and I think, well, I need a little more wind or a little less wind, then I'll actually turn it in. Now, it's very possible you could have a different wind 0 a little bit between 50 yards and 200 yards. Not a lot, but maybe a half minute.
Right.
And it all has to do with the angle of departure of the bullet and the fact that you have a right-hand rifling twist. You have about, if you shot at a 0, let's say at 100 yards, a wind 0 under perfect conditions, and you went to 1,000 yards and shot, you'd have about a 10-inch dispersion, 10 inches to a foot, of lateral movement in your bullet. So that means you added another, essentially, foot of windage to your gun.
That's just based upon the twist of the bullet, right?
Twist of the bullet and the way it tracks.
So as the bullet moves and twists, it has a tendency to go right or go left depending upon the twist of the barrel.
Depends on the twist. That's exactly right.
All right.
So while we're here, we'll set and change the windage on this gun to 0 also.
So the objective, this is really just makes it easier for you to see where you're at as far as
Sure.
your 0.
It lets you find a true mechanical 0. That's what you call your mechanical 0. And it's probably more important for wind. Obviously, your elevation may change a little bit from time to time at the range, but you work and you find some sort of an average, or you work off the temperature.
So you just unset it, turn it to 0, and tighten them down.
Tighten them back down.
I bet a lot of people never knew they could do that.
Probably not. They just leave it as it is. Okay. Are all set. All right, now we're going to come back and shoot at 150 yards with this rifle. And based on our shots from our other rifle, we're going to come down a half a minute.
Okay.
Actually, we're going to come down a quarter minute. Okay.
And that's, again, based upon what you saw with the other rifle.
Right. But they're 2 different calibers. But at this close range, they're probably all going to be very, very similar. Not one caliber has a huge advantage over the other one at this range. Okay. All right. Here we go at 150. Got my parallax focused. Shot hit just a shade high. Right on the money. Okay.
So that's in the
So
pacer.
I came down. I didn't really need to come down a half a minute for 150 yard zero for this. So that's within a quarter minute of my other one. Exactly the same thing.
Right. So you're hitting the paster out there, which is how big?
The 1 inch paster. I was shooting the top edge of it. I can see the top one, and I had a couple of holes at the bottom of it, so I shot the top edge, and I just printed off just off the edge of it. So we're talking a bullet width above the paster, both shots. 42 3/4. All right, now we're going to come back down to 100 yards. Our wind zero remained the same.
All right. And again, the ability to be able to write this data down and have it stored so that when you need to do this kind of shot, that's really
very important.
Yeah, I mean that's the essence of what you're doing here.
That's right. And you can see this is my data that I have my 600 or my 1,000 yard zeros on. And of course we're shooting pretty close today, but it's the same thing. If I was in this situation, I'd have it because at a moment's notice I could look at it. Not that I wouldn't have it memorized, but it's right here on my rifle. And you just essentially what you do in that sort of situation is you come up on that, and you probably with the backpack you carry some of the essential stuff you need. What I'd do is I'd come up and take out my laser rangefinder and plug in and see how many meters or yards. This one's in yards. This shows 99 yards down there to the 100 yard one. That's what I'm using. Some of the stuff that makes it a lot easier.
So the laser rangefinder gives you that exact.
It's hard to miss then.
So you've been to the range, you've done your homework, you take your shot.
That's right, and you go home.
Aim straight on.
That's right. So we'll shoot at 100 yards now. Based on a while ago, I'm going to come down another half minute.
Half minute's 2 clicks, right?
2 clicks, half an inch. I'm going to shoot the left bottom target.
Go.
Need to adjust my parallax a little. Okay. Okay, it's well within the paster. I need to be down another click. I went down 2 and came up 1, which would put me at 42 for my 100 yard zero. So we're all set there. So now we're going to come in and shoot our 50 yard zero.
So based upon what you know at 50,
I'm going to have to come up, which makes no sense, but we are.
Yes.
Because the simple fact is we are going to have to get the aiming point of the scope down to the height of the barrel.
So if you're to shoot now dead on, you're going to shoot high.
I'm going to shoot high at 50 yards. Yeah, I'm probably going to shoot this much high. That's my guess. All right.
Right.
Probably 2 inches. Okay.
Just because the scope is that much higher than the
above
barrel.
than the barrel. Very close.
Right.
You'll also notice I have a bubble on the front of this rifle. I have a bubble on this one. That's for really longer range shooting. Obviously, a bubble is very important to watch, but at 50 to 200 yards, a bubble is not probably going to make the difference between a hit and a miss.
But for extreme accuracy,
Extreme accuracy, putting it in the paper in the paster, as we're going to try and do in a minute. We'll
bubble
see.
helps.
I'm going to watch the bubble. You
That's
bet.
right.
Every advantage I can get. So we're going to come up 1 3/4 minutes. Here we go. Set my parallax first.
And the parallax basically is just the focus, right?
It's the focus, so I can see clearly at this range. All right. A little high. Going to come down 2 clicks. Well within the paster, but it's still high. Still a touch high. Come down 1 more click and we've got it. Okay, we're all set. So I only had to come up 1 minute, which could be the difference between the scope height of an SR-25 and its scope, which is probably 3 inches, and the scope height of this particular rifle, and it's the scope and that barrel height there, probably 1 inch less.
So there's the graphic example.
That's a perfect example right there. Couple inches. That's a perfect example, probably on a tactical rifle, to have your scope as low as you can get it over the barrel, because it makes less difference between your shots
at these closer
at
distances.
these close ranges.
Yeah.
And I don't know that I'd dial in. Obviously, if I had time to dial in the shot at 50 yards, I'd dial in the shot. But if you don't, you just know that it's going to hit at about 1 inch to 1.5 inches difference in height at 50 yards to the next 100, 150, 100, 150, and 200. For most people, probably close enough, a 1-0. But when we're talking about hitting a paster, a 1 inch paster, that's what we want to do. We want to hit or nick it.
Yeah. And
That's essentially the size of your eyeball, and that's what you need.
We've got some other objects down there. We've got a quarter down there.
Okay?
Which gun do you want to use?
Well, let's use this one.
Okay.
At this point. We've got a quarter at 50, and we've got a quarter at 100. I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll shoot the quarter at 50
Let's
first.
do the quarter 50. We're right
Okay,
there.
that'll work.
Okay.
Quarter's gone.
And so you hit it.
Yeah, it looked like we hit it about a 1/4 inch right of center, and maybe just a shade above center.
Okay.
It's back. Let's have a look. That's where we hit it. He didn't exactly index it right back correctly, but it was a 1/4 inch right of center, a 1/4 inch high of center.
And does it have a hole in it?
It's got a hole in it.
All right, so the objective here, of course, you've got your rifle dialed in.
Yes.
Some of those variables have been taken out by the study, what
Sure.
you've done, but now the variables of you with a hold and your wobble factor. Let's talk
Right.
about that a little bit while he's moving down there.
Well, you'll have some pulse. Obviously, I have a little bit of movement here, not only from the body, because I'm using a somewhat of a sling-supported position,
right.
and my wobble area is probably probably half the size of a paster.
Okay.
Okay. And then, of course, the existing conditions you have make a difference. Rolling a little bit left, a little bit right. If you shoot off of a bipod or off the bags, it's probably a steadier hold, but I'm not so sure that you can shoot groups that are any better. And the reason that is because most people, when they do that, they're whack here aiming, and so they have no control over the front of the rifle, whether it's bipod or bag. And a rifle, now this gun weighs 16 pounds, so it would have a lot less, it would be affected a lot less than something that weighed 13 pounds, let's say.
Right.
But I personally think that I can shoot groups that are almost as good or as good with a sling-supported rifle. I have so much more mobility to engage other targets or to see the other situations at hand. And the other thing that you'll probably find is if I shoot in different positions, if I get in a situation where I have to shoot kneeling or standing against the side of a building or over a car hood, I'll probably hit closer more times than the person who's shooting off a bag or with bipod. Because first off, they're used to shooting off the ground, and I'm used to shooting at any position.
Right.
And so any kind of scenario you give me, whether it is the car hood or over the building or on the side of the building, well, your bag and your bipod are no use to you, are absolutely no use to you on the side of a building.
Right.
You're toast.
Right. So you've got to learn how to use that sling.
You got to use the sling, and it's a big. I think once somebody learns how to use it, then obviously you can still use everything we have here in conjunction with it because it just helps you. But the beauty of it is that you are able to exert the same force or pressure on the rifle, and you actually control it more. And I think you'll probably shoot better groups every time.
Yeah.
Yep. So, all right, here we go. We're going to try the quarter at 100 yards, and our elevation at 100 is 42, and that's where we are. So. I'll fix my parallax. You missed.
Where was it?
Well, I see why. I have it on 43 and not 42, so I guess I need to learn how to read my sights.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So how high were you?
An inch.
An inch high. one minute is an inch. And
1 minute is an inch. So that's a pretty good example of learning how to read your sights.
Right.
So I didn't look and what I had. My 100-yard zero is 42, and I was shooting at 43 at my 50-yard zero. So I came down the inch, and we'll give it another whirl. Let the wind go a little bit here. Good shot right in the middle. Maybe an 1/8 inch right of center. The quarter stayed intact. It's right there. Nice hole.
It drove it right through, huh?
Drove it right through it. That was the retina on the right side, I guess.
Okay, well, what's interesting there again is how accurate those adjustments on the scope are.
Well, sure. And if you don't, you need to learn how to read your scope and obviously check it. I probably had a mental lapse there and didn't do it. It might have not have made the difference between the shot between 50 and 100 yards, but it could have made some difference.
Right. Well, it's an inch is an inch.
An inch is an inch.
And law enforcement guys, an inch is either liability or an excellent shot.
That's right. Of course, the backside of whoever you shot, you're never going to know which way it came in anyway, or left. Most police departments probably have single shot or Remington 700 rifles.
Right.
I don't know that semi-automatic Good, Bad, or Indifferent is a great gun. I think we should probably go with it once and shoot it through just to see.
Okay.
And kind of discuss some of the features. But either one of these guns are capable of precision accuracy at the distances that we're shooting today. They're extremely good. You're going to use every advantage you can to steady the rifle. Especially today, you can see that there's definitely a little bit of conditions down here on the shooter as much as the rifle, as much as the bullet, really.
It's a tad windy.
It's a tad windy.
Okay. What happened to our quarter? Did he grab it?
No, there it is. And there it was. We called it like a 1/4 inch high and right, and guess what? It's quarter inch high and right. That's pretty
Well,
much.
I think what's even more incredible is your ability to make that call.
Well, you notice that that's the last side picture that I saw, because the gun's moving. My gun moves around when I'm shooting the position I'm shooting, and that's the last thing that I saw as I went into recoil. So I'll call the shot.
So you kind of freeze that picture in your mind, huh?
You freeze that picture in your mind. And actually, what's interesting, it looks like to me that we left some of the bullet jacket on the quarter.
Huh.
Peel it right off.
So that's our 50-yard quarter.
That's our 50-yard quarter.
And let's look at our targets here real quick, too.
This was our side-in target. This was the first shot with the semi-automatic. This was the second. I'm sorry. Those were the semi-automatic shots, Lenny. I'm sorry. This was boom, boom, and then we boom, boom, and got here and then came to here. Here were the two or three shots that we shot with the bolt-action rifle, okay? We were high and came down a click and shot.
Right.
Came down 1 or 2 clicks.
Wow.
So, but for 50 yards, that's not much of a group, you know. It's
well, but still, it's offhand.
Right. It's supported. It's not a bench rest type thing. And I think you'll see when we shoot down here on that how fast I can cover stuff with a sling, and the fact that I'm as good off the side of a building as I am almost off these bags.
Right.
And in most situations, most people, they'd never even think about shooting off the side of a building.
This kind of accuracy.
That kind of accuracy.
Well, this quarter didn't want to go anywhere, huh?
That quarter didn't want to go anywhere. So, there was our first shot. Obviously, we were a little left to center, but we had the wrong elevation.
You called that one.
Called that one. It was an inch high. Brought my sights down. Put that one pretty close to the middle. 1/8 or 1/4 inch right of center. Again, here was the semi-automatic. That was the first shot.
Right.
So I came down, and I overcorrected out the bottom, and then we shot those to kind of get centered.
Right.
These were the 2 shots with the single shot gun. Broke the shot a little left, and the right was still high.
So there, you had the advantage of the shooting the semi first, won the single.
Kind of knew what I was doing. Knew the program. Right. Absolutely. Because most of the time I never shoot it 50 or 150 or
right. These are short
yards.
distances.
These are extremely short distances. Right.
But realistic distances for law enforcement.
Absolutely. That'd probably take 95% of their shots, or 98% of the shots between 150 and 0. You're not always going to be laying right on the ground. And a bag puts you on the ground pretty low. You have to build it up. A bipod will get you up a little bit, right, or higher. But what I do with the sling is I can get up as high as a bipod, if not higher, and move around.
Right.
And even though I couldn't see these, I believe that this was the first shot out of the semi-automatic. And then we shot that one and then that one. I believe that's right. And then this was the first shot with the bolt rifle and the second shot.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, in a more relaxed setting with time, you'd probably shoot 2 or 3 groups and work off an average. There are a lot of different occasions that you wouldn't be able to use a rest, i.e. prone or over the car hood or use the side of the building. You'd have to actually have a free position. And this particular tactical vest will give you a great deal of support in the positions that you would assume, which would be obviously not prone, but would be sitting and kneeling and standing. Or some sort of modified position, even a squatting or hunkered over position if you were kind of in between something that was too short for you to stand up but too tall for you to sit out. So what we're going to do here is I want to demonstrate how this tactical vest works, and we'll shoot some sitting at 50 and 100 yards, a few shots, and we'll try a little kneeling, and then we'll shoot a few shots standing. As it came over the top of our shoulder for prone, we're now going to put it down on the side of our shoulder, and it naturally kind of wants to go to the side when we shoot sitting. Fits around the side of the shoulder, gives a lot of support. I'm shooting a cross-legged position simply because this position, the sitting positions or the positions that I'm trying to demonstrate are going to give me more height than a prone or bag or bipod position. And in some cases I may need that in the scenario that I am faced with.
So elbow on knee, huh?
Elbow on knees, and you can really see how this sling pulls. I mean, it holds the gun up by itself. Look at that. And I don't have any great big shooting glove on. I got a little bitty glove. I could probably shoot this without a glove at all, but it just seems to probably help a little to have a glove. Is that 5 shots?
Yep.
I have 4 of them touching down there. One was a little off the paster, high left. The others are all touching down there in the bottom right corner of the paster.
Pretty fast shots.
Pretty fast shots.
Right.
They hit the paster.
Now, what are you seeing there? Is the scope jumping a little bit, or is it just...
I have a little bit of movement, obviously, because I've got just the normal body functions working and a little bit of wind buffeting me.
Right. And from when you squeeze the shot, do you kind of come up a little bit, or
Sure.
how much control of that rifle do you have?
Well, you have control, but you're actually losing the sight. You're losing the picture to a degree of where you are. I mean,
Right.
Because not only that, but you have a tendency to blink at the time you shoot too.
Right.
And so you lose it. But I've got the scope turned down to 6 power for a close shot like that, and so I get a lot of field of view from that.
Right.
But it's still something. You have to come back and find out where you are. But when I come back, I settle right back down on the paper plate easily and pretty close to the black paster.
And that's based upon the position and the hold, right?
That's right. And of course, we work on our natural point of aim to a degree, and our natural point of aim on all this, whether you're shooting off a bipod or off a bag or sitting or whatever, your natural point of aim is essentially your ability to point your finger at something and repeat it. And so if I mounted this rifle, I'll put it on safety, if I mounted this rifle up over here and my target's here, I shouldn't just force my body around to it.
Right.
I should pick my rear up, scoot it around, and get my natural point of aim toward the doorway or the window or where I think I'm going to make my shot. Or if I have to do such a thing, the simple fact is because that gives me the ability to move in a little wider area, but it'll always, as long as you set your natural point of aim up correctly, your shot will hit closer to your call. And at the point in time you get ready to shoot that shot, and your gun fades off a little to the right or the left or high or low, that just is a perfect example that your natural point of aim was not on. And that's not only true in position rifle shooting, it's true in prone or bench rest or any of this other stuff.
Right. Okay.
So, and we had of course, I naturally set up my natural point of aim on a target. So I didn't cover that initially.
So now, that sitting position, just to review that one more time, legs crossed, where do those arms go? And are you putting the bone to bone, or are you putting some fleshy arm down on your knee there?
I'm pretty much bone to bone here. That
Okay.
gives me a lot of height. Okay.
Okay.
Now you could come down lower. Okay.
More of your tricep on the
you
knee?
could, but the whole idea is the reason you're shooting sitting is you couldn't shoot prone.
Okay.
Okay. And so it moved you up, let's say, 18 inches, a foot to 18 inches off the ground.
Right,
Okay.
right.
And of course, our next stage would be kneeling, which would move us 18 inches to 2 feet off the ground, more than likely.
Right.
And then we go to standing, which would move us several feet off the ground.
Okay.
So what we're trying to do is work in the steadiest plane that we have the ability to shoot a shot in. If it's not prone, then it's sitting. And then if it's not sitting, it's kneeling. Don't ever go from, okay, I can't shoot a shot prone, but I'm going to shoot it kneeling. Well, I just skipped sitting, and I could have shot the shot sitting. Well, there's no question that sitting is a much more stable position than kneeling.
Uh-huh.
Now, if we had the choice between the side of a building and shooting kneeling and shooting sitting, you might opt to shoot sitting from something that you could shoot kneeling to something you could lean against, as opposed to a totally unsupported sitting position out here.
Right.
So
using
you
the side
pick
of the
it
building as a support.
as a support. So now you've utilized some other structure to actually make your shot.
Right.
Which is what the whole game is. You've got to take whatever you're given, and it's and conversely, you know, a sniper or a scout sniper, he crawls around out in the bushes and he shoots off a bag or a bipod because he can pick his shot.
Right.
He can go, okay, the guy's over here, well, where do I want to make my shot? Do I want to shoot it down here 100 yards or here or here? And he can crawl over there and find an opportune place to make a shot. A police tactical shooter, when he shows up, who knows what it is? He's got squad cars here or something here or a house burning there. This is where you need to be. So you got to take what you have at that point. You can't pick it as well. You can't pick, you can pick something, but you can't pick it to the finite degree that someone who has a lot of time does.
Right.
And conversely, when you walk up with a vest like this on, I guarantee you I can set up and shoot a shot faster with more accuracy with this vest from a standing position to firing than you can fiddling with the bipod and getting it down here and getting on, or throwing your bag down and working. Okay, you just fall down and shoot your shot. And for the type of accuracy that you probably need out to 200 yards, plenty adequate.
All right.
All right, so we'll shoot a few shots at 100. So my position now, back again, this is a cross-legged position. You can shoot a cross-ankle position. You can shoot a position, I kind of shoot this when I shoot high-power target rifle, when height is not an issue here, and I can actually get down in the rifle in this particular situation and get down this low. This is almost as steady as prone, but for our applications, it's too low.
Yeah.
If I can shoot that, I can shoot prone.
Off a bag, yeah.
Off a bag, or off a bipod, or with a sling. So we're back to this a little higher position.
Now you really bury the stock into your
It's
shoulder,
really
huh?
there. It's bone supported. It's bone to bone, and then down to here. And of course, this is on something that gives me some support also. Push it in your shoulder. If you can put this rifle in your shoulder in any position, prone, kneeling, or sitting, if you can put it in your shoulder like this, it's too loose, okay? You need to push it in because you've got a pocket here. Find your pocket, push it in, and that way you go to the same point every time. When I mount this gun, if I mounted it 5 times prone or 20 times sitting, it feels the same every time. It doesn't feel different. If it feels different, take it out of your shoulder, reposition it, and find it where it's the same. It's repeatability. I've got to shift my natural point of aim a little bit because my target is a little further left down the range this time. Take the gun off safety. This thing really pulls through my back. It really gives, I really have a lot of support back here. just imagine what this would be like if you didn't have a sling. You couldn't, I guarantee you, you couldn't put all your shots probably on the paper plate at 100.
Right, with all this wind.
No way. No way. And I'm actually going to shoot for the little black spot down there. I probably won't hit it every time, but I'll get close. Here we're going to change from 50 yards to 100 yards. And so, consequently, we have the same thing that we had when we shot prone off the bag, is we have a zero change. So now we have to go from 2 1/4, from 4 1/4 to 2 1/4. Always went down, I went past where I wanted to be and came back up to it. Okay? Always move these directions, always come up or down, either way, whatever, I'm always coming up, because it seems that I'm always working from a shorter range to a longer range. And another good idea here probably is to think about where you think you'll encounter most of your stuff. And so the moment that you walk out of the squad car, you open your bag and you look at your zero and you assess what you think it is at that point in time. Just a raw guess, set your sights and go from there. Because when you get to the position to shoot, then you can make a final judgment. But if you get to the position and you have to shoot at that point in time, at least you've made some sort of an educated guess on what the distance your shot will be.
Right.
So you have a better shot, a chance of getting it.
So you're already set up.
So you're already set up. And if I was going to guess and I was doing an inner city thing, I'd probably set my gun on 100 yards. Because I can be awfully close at 100, 150, or 200, and I can always come down for 50 if it's closer. So, all right, so we're going to shoot 5 shots at 100. Hit the black paster twice. I shot above it 1 inch twice, and I had one shot that was about 1.5 inches low right. So if you want to look at the radius that I shot down there, I shot probably a group about 3 inches in diameter. Plenty good probably for that sort of distance, unsupported, and a little bit in the wind. I mean, I had to wait. The wind buffeted me 2 or 3 times, and I tried to make the shot a little bit better. Worked on it.
Still good for tactical action.
Excellent. Okay, let's try kneeling. We'll try kneeling at 50. Once again, we set our zero. We go back to 4 1/4. We'll come up in a kneeling position. Obviously, you don't have a kneeling roll, so you'll have to sit on your foot. Something like that. Come around, has some sort of support like this. Again, it's bone supported to a degree, but you don't have any support on your right elbow. Now, if you were leaning up against the building on the right or the left, be pretty steady. Because not only that, but you might even be able to put your right elbow out, drop it down, and have a double touch. Have a point of contact up here and a point of contact back here. You might even be able to lean back against something. So there's a lot of different options that you've got. And we moved into another plane. We moved from prone to sitting to kneeling. Now we're probably almost 2 feet off the ground. If you want to sit on your foot instead of the side of your foot, you can come in here and sit on the back of your foot, which is a little bit uncomfortable. But now you're up here, really in the air.
Right, another 6 or 8 inches.
Another 6 or 8 inches. So, one thing I like to shoot on kneeling, I like to have my elbow kind of on the inside of my knee, and if you look at my arm, my elbow's kind of kicked in under the gun. It helps support the rifle, okay? And we'll shoot it like this. This is a little higher position. We'll shoot the left plate down there. Take a little bit more time when I shoot that, and yet it's pretty steady. Wind's buffeting me though, but I got in another higher plate.
Same concept with that left hand pushing out?
Same concept. Really a supported position.
And pulling on the sling, huh?
The sling's pulling on the rifle. You're not pulling on the sling.
Okay.
The sling is supporting you in the position.
All right.
Because it holds itself there. I mean, it holds the gun. And anybody can hook it up. You can actually hook it up. You could hook this sling up so it came off the back of your bipod. Wouldn't be hard. It's got a connector here for it.
Uh-huh.
Now you'd obviously have it out here further, and you just have to choke up on the gun. But that's how service rifle shooters shoot all the time.
Right.
Their sling has an attachment out forward, and then they place their hand in here and grip it or grab it as such. Mm-hmm. Main thing is keep your fingers off the barrel, but in a particular situation like this, you can't touch the barrel anyway.
Right.
So, then our final position will be standing or offhand. We'll use this to help it support the rifle in there. More than likely, you'll never have to make an offhand shot, but you never know.
Okay, what's the trick here now?
The trick here is to let the gun support itself. Use the sling, but you'll have to choke back on the rifle some. Whether it's this an SR-25 or bolt action gun, your sling will be further forward, but you'll be grabbing back about the action. And the reason you're doing that is so you can get some support or some more lift. And obviously, we're in another plane now. You could actually shoot over the edge of a wall this way. Hopefully you were tall enough, or even over the top of the doors or the roof on your car would get you into this plane. Okay, you couldn't get this high with kneeling or sitting. Mm-hmm. So anyway,
so you want to drop that elbow down against your body, huh?
I want to drop the elbow down against my body just like this, but the sling's supporting it. I mean, it's just there. Got 2 of them or 3 of them in the paster. Pretty quick. Actually shot it quicker than I did the kneeling. Probably because I shoot more standing than kneeling. But anyway, gives the idea. Gives you support. You see how far it rocks you back, though. Takes you a little bit more time to recover. Mm-hmm. Out of it quickly and down.
Okay, here we are.
Okay.
200 yards, right?
200 yards. You're going to shoot the front plates. I'm going to shoot the back plates.
Now, because I sighted in at 200 yards and they're about 200 or 190.
Don't make any difference.
No difference.
No
huh?
difference.
Okay.
Not at that range.
Okay.
Not with the size of plate that we're shooting, Lenny.
Right, it's a big plate.
That's right.
Just aim a little bit
Just aim
low,
at the
maybe.
plate and
a little bit high. That's what. No, a little low.
Just aim in the middle of the plate.
Okay.
That's probably the best thing to do.
All right, you ready to try this?
I'm ready if you are.
Are you ready?
Brian, you say on your mark and get set and everything. Jam. Done.
Ah, you are something. That's it.
Okay.
One less. Wow. You zoomed through them.
Anyway, okay, let's try it again, and I'll just load the real 10 rounds instead of 11, and I won't have my problem.
Yeah. So the object there with that sling, it gives you a little bit better range of motion.
Well, it gives you a better range of motion, and you can actually track your movements side to side by breathing.
Oh,
I breathe in. If I breathe in, I will go right across the plate.
So it's shoot, shoot.
No, it's actually shoot, take a little more air, and shoot, because I'm not breathing as I'm shooting.
Right.
I'm holding my breath.
Okay.
But it's, maybe I'm taking in a little air each shot, okay?
All right.
Just in between on the recoil.
Well, I will try to pick up my pace now. I see that the new benchmark here to be established.
I think we should be able to knock them down in 5 seconds. 8
Wow.
plates, 5 seconds, standing to sitting.
That's pretty darn amazing.
That's pretty fast.
And that's
At 200 yards.
Well, that's the amazing part. Fast is 5 seconds. The amazing part is it's 200 yards. Targets are reset. Now we've got a plate down there that's approximately 12 inches by 8 inches.
That's close.
Yeah,
That'd be
something like that.
yeah.
And there's 8 of them.
There's 8 of them.
And we're going to try to knock all 8 down as fast as possible.
As fast as we can. And you're shooting the close ones. I'm
Right.
shooting the far ones.
Well, they're not that much closer.
No, but
It's about 8 yards.
it's all in your mind.
That's right.
I have to look at yours before I see mine. See?
Oh, okay.
There's a little advantage there.
right,
Because
well,
if you shoot yours down before I do, it's a real psychological crush to me.
Right,
if
sure.
It was the other way around, and you saw about the time you got on the plate, you saw 2 or 3 of mine fall down. It's like, oh,
Well, let's see if I can get up there a little faster.
I bet you can. Let's see here. Where's mine? There we go. All right, let me see if I got 10. I got 10.
Okay.
All right. Just a second. Not quite. All right, we're ready.
So we're going down.
Get set. Go.
You beat me, Lenny.
Yeah, that one left there.
Yeah, because I was fooling with my little. I'm gonna do it again, Lenny.
We better do it again. Whew. Well, you made up in a hurry there. I didn't know you
yeah.
had that one left over.
Yep.
Once you get rolling, you just had some gun jams.
That's
all.
a good jam. That's
So let's
what
go
it
ahead and let's do a good run on this because I
Yeah.
want to see how fast you can do that. And what was our time?
25 seconds.
Yeah, that's big.
Yeah, that's terrible.
Yeah, I mean, I can see you can do this in 5 to 10 seconds.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't know when you finished, Lenny.
That's all right. Lenny won.
Mark. Set. Go.
Right away, Lenny.
A little faster than last time.
It's better.
I hit low that one shot.
2 seconds faster.
All right.
This is a vest that I helped design for Blackhawk. It's they call it the David Tubb Tactical Vest, and it gives you the ability to have a sling-supported rifle from the back, from the center of your back, up through your back, and over your shoulder for prone, around your shoulder for sitting and kneeling and standing. It can be used for a right or left-handed person. This particular vest has padding in the right shoulder, which enhances or deadens your pulse beat. And we're going to put it on and show you how it works. Essentially, you just lay it on the ground, you step into it, pick it up, work it up your legs, put your right arm through, put your left arm through. Fits kind of like a rappelling harness. You bring this belt around, hook it in your waistband or your waist belt. Give it a reasonable tug. It doesn't have to be very tight. It can be worn rather loosely if you so desire it. Go ahead and zip up the front. You actually catch your sling in the back. Remember that your sling is adjustable here. It's going to pull from the back. It pulls from the center of your back. It pulls over your back like this in the prone position. In the kneeling and sitting and standing positions, it'll pull around the side to give you the support you're after. It's adjustable. Just pull the Velcro. You've got a big long strap of Velcro. You can adjust it to whatever fits you. I find that I use the same position prone, sitting, and kneeling. Of course, at the point in time that you're not using it, you can tuck it away. There's a strap that will be Velcroed down, so hold it down. And it's a real advantage to someone who has to shoot with an unsupported position, such as if you had to shoot on the side of a building or possibly over a fence or over an edge of a building and looking down where you couldn't use a bipod and you couldn't use a bag. And we're going to demonstrate a few times here, a few different positions, and shoot a few shots and actually let you see how the sling and the tactical vest work together. We're going to demonstrate the use of this SR-25 rifle as a tactical rifle. We're shooting at a distance of 70 yards. A police officer, when he gets to the situation, may not have time to fold out his bipod or lay his bag down. He may have to load, peek around the corner, shoot a shot, and then retreat. We'll try such a scenario right now. Hide. Back. And back. Try 3. Three shots. Back around the corner. It gives you a lot of advantage because you can unhook. Now you're ready. You can hook up. You can shoot prone. You can actually shoot over the top of the vehicle in such a manner without a bag. Pretty quick shots. 70 yards. Probably most of the law enforcement encounters that anybody has are probably less than 100 yards. It allows you to set up, shoot your shot, and have the stability you need to hit your target.
And the movement to get back out of the way.
And the movement to get back out of the way. You set up bipod, you pull it down. We come over here and we set up like this. And our gun is crooked at this point because our hood's sloping off. Not that that's a big deal at 70 yards, but it's a little disconcerting. We do have a bigger profile, and if we want to, if somebody shoots at us, now we got to pick it all up, come back down, and set back up again. Whereas with a sling, off of the tactical vest, we can be down and up and shoot and down. It's hard to shoot a shot that's that quick with a bipod. We're going to demonstrate a tactical situation here that we have multiple targets to engage, and we're going to see how fast we can do it using prone position. Back out of the way. Out of harm's way now. The gun really holds well. Shoot the shots relatively fast, but you have a sling supported position without the use of a sling around your arm. You can walk around a normal vest. When you need it, you got it. When you don't, you don't.
Cowboy action shooting is the #1 shooting sport in America today. It's fun, it's friendly, it's competitive, and it's a great way to meet new people with a common interest in the Old West. The sport has literally created entirely new marketplaces for Old West clothing, boots, hats, and leather gear, and has breathed new life into firearm manufacturers who specialize in cowboy action-style guns.
Leaf Springs was a fine design back 125 years ago, but nowadays the coil springs have really took over. And there's some modifications. We periodically will put this type of spring in the Colts just to make them last a little longer.
In order to get the most performance, accuracy, and reliability from these guns, shooters have turned to skilled gunsmiths to customize and beautify their firearms. In the Old West, a gunsmith was a trusted friend and partner. Today, a gunsmith can not only help you win tournaments, he'll help you win the admiration and envy of your fellow shooters.
If you take it out in this order, if you put it back in this order, you won't have any problem at all. You'll be a pro in no time.
One of the top cowboy action gunsmiths in America today is Larry Crow. Larry owns and operates Competitive Edge Gunworks in Bogard, Missouri. He is a member of the prestigious American Pistolsmith Guild, specializing in single-action revolvers. In the program you're about to see, Larry Crow shows you complete disassembly and reassembly of the Ruger Vaquero single-action revolver, along with cleaning and maintenance tips that will help you keep your gun reliable and accurate for years to come.
And that's the purpose of these videotapes, is to show you exactly how your gun works and make you more user-friendly with your piece of equipment. Just simply disassemble your gun once a year and give it a thorough cleaning. If you're shooting black powder, obviously you have to do it a little bit more often.
This program was recorded entirely at the Murray State College School of Gunsmithing in Tishomingo, Oklahoma. Many thanks go to Dean Arnold, the director of the gunsmithing department, for his assistance in producing this program. Now, here's Master Gunsmith Larry Crow with the Ruger Vaquero, complete disassembly and reassembly, cleaning and maintenance.
I was educated today.
Yeah.
Because I've never done this. It's very dangerous, number one. Number two, there's very few places you can do an experiment like this.
Right.
You got to know the speed of your vehicle. You got to know the velocity of your bullet.
And the distance from the
from the
Because
target.
if we were to walk this back another 10 yards, it would be a whole different ballgame, right?
Oh, right. We would double the lead at least.
Really?
Wow.
We could do the study and say, well, on an average, this ammunition goes at a certain velocity from the factory. What we're going to do is take it a step further and go ahead and do it ourselves, and the chronograph will register exactly what each shot is. 999. Okay, we got 1180 feet per second. We're smoking at 1523. The last two are 2958.
It's moving down the road fast. It's moving up and down fast. It's moving all kinds of directions fast. It's not a great hit, but it's not a bad hit either.
It is a hit.
Any hit at 40 miles an hour is a good hit. Once the speed bumps up to 30 miles an hour, you start getting quite a ways off the target.
This is amazing to me, how far ahead. I never thought you'd have to lead this much, really. But again, I've never tried this before.
Hello, I'm Lenny McGill, and welcome to my backyard swimming pool. Today, we're going to do something very interesting and certainly unusual. We're going to test handguns underwater. About 5 years ago, I was watching a movie with Sidney Poitier as the FBI agent, the good guy, chasing a bad guy throughout Vancouver. And in the final scenes of the movie, they ended up on a ship. And Sidney Poitier was injured. He had been shot once. He rushed the bad guy, and the two of them fell 30 feet into the water. And it looked as though the bad guy, who was much larger, was going to win. He was going to kill Sidney Poitier by strangling him underwater. He had him by the neck, and it looked like it was over. And just in the last instant, Sidney Poitier pulled his revolver and fired 2 shots at point-blank distance, at contact distance, into the bad guy, neutralizing the bad guy and ending the movie on a positive note. Well, ever since then, I've been interested in knowing how effective handguns are underwater. Will they actually shoot? Will the bullet actually travel at a velocity that can be dangerous? And one of the things I find most interesting about this subject is everybody I talk to is fascinated, and everybody has a different opinion. Some say that the bullet won't even travel 2 to 3 feet. Others say, hey, you're going to blow up your guns. My wife says, don't shoot my pool. And a lot of people say, you know, the sound is so deafening because water transmits sound so effectively. What do you think? Well, obviously, that's one of the reasons you're watching the program. So without giving away too much of the story, here's just a preview of what you'll see in this program. Coming up, we'll shoot several different automatic pistols and several different revolvers. You'll see and hear the shots from above the water. Woo! Woo-hoo! Good. And look at that, it's cycled. You'll see and hear the shots from below the water. And of course, you'll see the shots at normal speed and in slow motion, and even super slow motion. We'll shoot at a 3/4 inch piece of plywood, and later even shoot a pumpkin, all in an effort to find out how effective handguns are underwater. So what's very exciting for all of us here, including myself, is that we don't really know what's going to happen, because I've never really shot a gun underwater before. So stay with me as we get started with underwater shooting tests and evaluations. Since its inception in the early 1830s by a young Samuel Colt, the revolver has been the mainstay of personal protection handguns. From the 1870s right through the 1990s, revolvers were the handgun of choice for law enforcement professionals worldwide. However, with the advent of new manufacturing techniques in the 1980s, the automatic handgun grew in popularity. So much so that by the mid-1990s, almost all modern law enforcement agencies had switched to the semi-automatic handgun. The revolver, of course, is still a formidable weapon, especially in the hands of a skilled shooter. Perhaps the greatest revolver shooter to compete in recognized competitions in the 20th century is Jerry Miculek. Jerry is a true champion competition shooter, winning the Soldier of Fortune 3-gun competition, the IPSC 3-gun nationals, the American Handgunner World Speed Shoot-Off Championship, the International Revolver Speed Championship, and two-time overall winner of the Second Chance competition, as well as placing in the top 20 of most modern action pistol competitions. He is known for his amazing abilities with a revolver, shooting and reloading as fast as the world's best with automatic pistols. Jerry Miculek is also an accomplished gunsmith, working with revolvers, automatic pistols, rifles, and shotguns. He and his wife, Kay Clark Miculek, along with Jim Clark Sr. and Jim Clark Jr., operate from the Shootout in Princeton, Louisiana, a 150-acre shooting facility and custom shop dedicated to competition shooting sports. Clark Custom Guns is recognized worldwide as one of the premier custom gunsmiths, improving accuracy and reliability of pistols, rifles, and shotguns, and specializing in Ruger 1022 rifles and Mark II pistols, 1911-style handguns, Smith & Wesson revolvers, and AR-15 type rifles.
See, what we're going to talk about is the wise use of your time with your trigger finger.
According to Jerry, the release of the trigger is even more important than the pull for fast revolver shooting.
Every movement has a use. If it doesn't have a use, don't do it.
In this program, we'll address how much accuracy is really necessary.
You only shoot it accurate as what the shot needs to be. If I see a front blade on that target, I'm going to give it a shot.
How fast is a revolver?
I can never outshoot my gun the way it's set up. When I fire a shot, it's down waiting, saying, "Come on, boy, give me another one." You know, even at 12, 1,300 splits, it's waiting on me.
We'll talk about the importance of basic fundamentals.
Your front sight is your only friend. You've heard that a million times. You have to look at the front sight, front sight, front sight. It's a boring job.
But someone's got to do it.
Someone's got to do it.
We'll also address the importance of grip design for fast and accurate revolver shooting.
This is like 10, 12 years worth of trial and error. It looks really simple, but it took that long to understand exactly what I needed in a stock, what was BS and what was good.
Welcome to Ultimate Advanced Revolver. Exhibition shooters are a delight to see and hear. They are part comedian.
Some morning, if you have a little trouble with your grapefruit, or your orange juice, or your vitamins, let's try out one of those vitamin crushers. So we will.
Folks, that orange was loaded with dynamite.
Part showman.
Just to show you that this is not a dangerous thing at all. All right, now I'm going to shoot it, and you'll notice that the bullet bounced harmlessly off the aluminum fire plate.
And all expert shooter.
Elapsed time on the clock, just for the draw itself, is 4/100ths of 1 second, and you wonder why you couldn't see it.
Putting together an entertaining show that will delight and amaze you. For more than 50 years, exhibition shooters have traveled the United States of America, showcasing their skills for millions of people, young and old alike. They make it look so easy, so simple, and so much fun.
Well, he'll split the bullet into two halves on the edge of that knife. He did it.
Yet those of us who shoot know that to perform these skills with such ease, on command, in front of a crowd of anticipating people, takes years of practice, patience, and God-given talent. One such shooter is Tom Knapp.
Oh, there he is!
For the past 15 years, Tom Knapp has delighted crowds worldwide with his speed and accuracy with a shotgun and unique wit and delivery of his humor.
The Benelli is empty, and I'm going to take a walk or a little step away from that cartridge. And when I get up, what the hell am I doing?
He is the ultimate showman shooter, sponsored by Benelli Shotguns since 1993 and Winchester Ammunition since 1990. Tom started shooting the Daisy Model 25 when he was just 9 years old. To get to this level of skill and confidence, he shot over 100,000 rounds per year for more than 10 years. Today, he shoots a comfortable 40,000 rounds per year to maintain his level of skill. Do the math, and you'll see that's more than 110 rounds per day, every day. Tom Knapp is both amazing and truly funny. The performance you're about to see was recorded at the 2001 End of Trail Cowboy Action Shooting World Championship match. For more information on Tom Knapp, go to his website at www.tomknapptheshootingstar.com. For more information about the End of Trail, visit www.sasnet.com. Now, here's America's shooting star, Tom Knapp. In sporting competitions of skill and ingenuity, only once or twice in a decade does an individual come along who completely dominates the competition. Nowhere has this been more apparent than in the sport of high-power rifle shooting.
Okay, maybe we'll get our stuff together. Should have been X about 4 o'clock.
Here, shooters are challenged by the wind, the sun, and other natural elements at 200, 300, 600, and 1,000 yards as they attempt to place a bullet the diameter of a pencil into a bullseye that varies from 5 inches to 10 inches in diameter. High-power rifle shooting is a test of physical skill, acquired knowledge, and mental concentration. Over the past 10 years, one competitor has won more national championships, won more awards, and set more national records than any high-power rifle shooter to ever live. His name is G. David Tubb, and his credentials are quite impressive. 7-time national high-power rifle champion, 8-time national silhouette champion, 5-time national light hunting rifle silhouette champion. Overall, G. David Tubb has earned 29 open individual national championships and hundreds of regional, local, and individual titles. He is without a doubt the most accomplished and skilled high-power rifle shooter to ever compete in organized competition. It is the goal and desire of every shooter to be able to place accurate, precision shots at challenging distances. Nowhere is this more important than when hunting for big game. The very nature of big game hunting dictates that most shots will be taken at distances greater than 100 yards, with some shots requiring precision out to 500 yards.
We're going to try and hit a ram that we've distanced out at 400 yards on the top edge of the bank over there.
In this program, G. David Tubb shares with you a lifetime of knowledge and information focused on the placement of accurate and consistent rifle shots, with a direct emphasis on overcoming the challenges of big game hunting. He'll discuss the hunting rifle, ballistics of ammunition, sighting in your scope, shooting positions, taking your shot, and much more. Tubbs' knowledge of hunting and rifle shooting is equally matched by his ability to share this information with you. For these reasons, Tubb is uniquely qualified to present the information you're about to see. I'm Lenny McGill. Now, here's G. David Tubb with long-range rifle shooting techniques for big game hunters. Shooting accurately at 200, 300, and 600 yards is a rewarding accomplishment. Difficult in the best of conditions, you will impress yourself when you can hit inside the 10 ring time and time again. Yet, when you move out to 1,000 yards, the difficulty increases exponentially. It's not twice as hard, it's 5 times as hard. The target looks much smaller, and your rifle sights seem to move as if they're on a roller coaster. Even your heartbeat will cause the sights to bobble uncontrollably. Imagine what that does to your accuracy. Now, let's increase the difficulty even more and move out to 1 mile. That's 5,280 feet, or 1,760 yards. Here, you can barely see the target with the unassisted human eye. The crosshairs of your scope cover the 10 ring and almost cover the entire black of the target. The bullet takes approximately 3 seconds to travel this distance, and it drops an incredible 112 feet.
Actually, any sort of shot at a mile, however you do it, is a shot at a mile. You know?
To hit the target at this distance takes a unique understanding of the rifle and ammunition, as well as the conditions in which you are shooting. In this program, G. David Tubb attempts a 1 mile shot on his property outside of Canadian Texas. You'll see the incredible results and then be even more amazed as Tubb and I move into 1,000 yards and break a string of shots all within the 20-inch 10 ring. I'm Lenny McGill. Now, here's G. David Tubb with the 1 mile shot. In law enforcement, tactical snipers and counter snipers rarely shoot at distances more than 200 yards. In fact, most shootings take place at distances of less than 75 yards. And while this in itself is not considered a difficult shot for a competent rifle shooter, law enforcement shooters are often encumbered by the lack of a clear shot at the target, a target that is moving, a less than ideal shooting position, and the presence of bystanders and or hostages. For these reasons, law enforcement rifle marksmen must develop the ability and skills to shoot high-precision shots quickly and from a variety of shooting positions. To clarify high precision, it is safe to say that law enforcement rifle shooters must develop the ability to shoot quarter-sized targets out to 100 yards consistently and under a variety of circumstances. Even more importantly, the law enforcement rifle shooter must know and understand his rifle and ammunition so that he can adjust his scope and his hold on the target when the target moves from 25 to 50 yards or 75 to 60 yards or 50 to 100 yards or any variation you could imagine. This program you're about to see details that and a whole lot more. Now, here's G. David Tubb and me, Lenny McGill, with extreme accuracy, tactical sniper shooting techniques for law enforcement. Tubb, like many other shooters in the late 1990s, has recently switched to a semi-automatic AR-15 style rifle. Coming up in this two-part program, you'll see Tubb's personal rifle and the modifications he has done to it, why he feels it is superior to traditional bolt-action rifles, shooting positions at 200, 300, and 600 yards, and a unique look at what Tubb sees when he is looking through his rifle sights. Now, let's get started with another program from the Extreme Accuracy Series with G. David Tubb. I'm Lenny McGill. Here's Extreme Accuracy, High Power Rifle Competition.
I would say that these rifles are as accurate as most all of the bolt rifles that are out there. Two good shots. Now today, when it's blowing around, it's like, you know, or it might be this, or it might come in and it might settle for a minute, and you're able to shoot the shot. Shot was a bit at 6 o'clock, but not only are you dealing with what your performance is, but you're also dealing with Mother Nature pushing on you. Right. I would track in about like this, bang, shot went off.
Shooting a high-powered rifle at distances of 200, 300, 500 yards and beyond challenges your physical skills and understanding of the fundamentals of marksmanship. At these distances, small mistakes can extrapolate to large misses. And as you master the fundamentals, your knowledge of your equipment and ammunition becomes even more important. For accuracy becomes a test of your mental skills. This program explores two important areas of long-range rifle shooting: understanding rifle scopes and understanding rifle ballistics. It is presented to you by G. David Tubb, one of the world's most successful competition long-range rifle shooters. I'm Lenny McGill. Now, here's G. David Tubb with another volume from the Extreme Accuracy series, Understanding Rifle Scopes and Ballistics.